Now, TROLLZ versus the bigger picture all over again, but this time the bigger picture actually takes that W. So yeah, let's talk about it. Now, the other day on Friday, 2 different albums dropped. The first one was, of course, from 6ix9ine. He dropped an album titled Tattle Tales, which of course is his first project post-prison. Big Sean also made a comeback, a very much anticipated one. He made his comeback with an album titled Detroit 2, super dope body of work. It's gotten a really positive reception from what I can tell. I personally like it. Now, after albums drop, there's always album projections, aka early reports on what kind of numbers the album in question will do. 9 times out of 10, these reports are pretty much on point, but of course it is a prediction, which means either they overestimate or underestimate the numbers by a little, but they're fairly accurate though. Now, these reports, aka predictions, are released by Hits Daily Double, for anyone who's wondering. Extremely accurate source for these kinds of things, but XXL wrote an article about this and said 6ix9ine is on pace to score his first #1 album on Saturday, September 5th. Album sales source Hits Daily Double projected the Brooklyn rapper's new LP, Tattle Tales, to take the #1 slot next week when the new numbers are officially announced for the Billboard 200 chart. According to the site, Tekashi's sophomore album is set to move 150,000 equivalent album sales. The same source has Big Sean's new Detroit 2 album coming in at second place with 125 equivalent album sales. Now, this article was written a couple days ago. Things are still progressing, which means anything can happen. As an example, No Pressure by Logic was projected to move between 75,000 and 85,000 copies in its first week. 2 to 3 days later, that number then jumped up to between 150,000 and 170,000. At the end, when the numbers came in, Logic ended up doing over 200,000. Now, at the time of me recording this right now, it's actually been a couple days since the first projections were released, and right now as we speak, the second one was released, but this time it didn't go up like in that Logic scenario. The numbers actually declined by 2/3. It looks like the sales projection for 6ix9ine's new album has decreased significantly, following news that Tekashi's new album Tattle Tales was projected to move around 150,000 equivalent album sales and possibly debut at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart. 6ix9ine's Tattle Tales album sales forecast decreased by 100,000 units. A new report from Hits Daily Double, published on Monday, September 7th, now says the Brooklyn rapper Federal they just had to add that XXL got time today. Oh yeah, they definitely got time today. Anyway, is only on pace to move around 40,000 and 50,000. Now, what did I say just a minute ago? It's only a couple days in, which means anything can happen, right? Well, that anything is what's going on right now. The projections for how much 6ix9ine's album was gonna do in its first week was obviously a big number. 150,000 is a lot. Now, a couple days later, it's significantly decreased. Meanwhile, Big Sean's Detroit 2 album is still projected to do over 100,000 copies first week. So in the span of 72 hours, it looks like things have changed very dramatically. Now, let's get a couple things out of the way really quickly. Number 1, 6ix9ine had, as we all know, 2 really strong singles prior to this album dropping. I'm talking about Gooba and TROLLZ, while Big Sean didn't, which is one reason why I'm very surprised his numbers are this low, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. On top of Gooba and TROLLZ, he of course had other songs out as well. Now, when it comes to Big Sean, he did have a single out with Nipsey Hussle titled Deep Reverence. That record dropped a little over a week before the actual album came out. If you've listened to it though, it ain't really strong single material. I think that's obvious. Now, on that note, Big Sean actually revealed how some people from his label advised him against dropping that song with Nipsey Hussle as the lead single for the album. He of course ended up going against his label's advice and just followed his heart, aka he dropped a song as the lead single. Salute to Big Sean for doing that, because just speaking from a stream, perspective, that was definitely not the right move, which is why his label told him no, don't do that. But of course, Big Sean followed his heart, which I can't really do anything but salute him for. Now, back to 6ix9ine though. This is his first album post-prison. He's been heavily going hard with the antics leading up to it, while Big Sean pretty much has been silent for what, 2 years now? Sean has of course dropped music during this period, but it's still been fairly quiet on his end. But this is pretty much, this is pretty much TROLLZ versus the bigger picture all over again. Only this time the bigger picture actually wins, and the bigger picture in this case is Big Sean. I talked about that little song battle when both of those tracks dropped on the same exact day, which was June 12th. Now, as most of us know at this point, TROLLZ got that #1 spot, okay, on the Billboard charts, while the Bigger Picture by Lil Baby ended up at 3. Most of us were kind of disappointed, okay, at least me, because the Bigger Picture is one of the better rap songs that have came out this year. So Lil Baby definitely deserved that #1 spot over Tekashi. 6IX9INE even agrees with this. He even said that on this Instagram comment. But now let's talk about what we learned from that TROLLZ versus the Bigger Picture battle, because there's a big takeaway from that situation. Listen up, this is the most important part of this video. Lil Baby played the long game with the Bigger Picture while Tekashi didn't with TROLLZ. Now, why do I say that? Now, I'm gonna show you something to validate what I'm saying, but for a second, pretend like I don't have any, quote-unquote receipts to back up my claims, and let me ask you this. TROLLZ versus the Bigger Picture. Which one of these songs has not only the most longevity, but over the span of, let's say, a decade, which one of these songs is gonna stand the test of time, aka longevity, right? Now, if you pick TROLLZ, turn this damn video off right now. You are not welcome, okay? Obviously, I'm kidding. The only right answer here, and I think in this case, there's actually a right answer. The Bigger Picture is the right one. Now, let's go back in time a couple months to when TROLLZ got that #1 spot, and TROLLZ made history, and not the good kind of history. 6IX9INE and Nicki Minaj's TROLLZ had the biggest fall for a #1 debut in Hot 100 history. 6IX9INE and Nicki Minaj rocketed to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 last week with their new single TROLLZ. It became the 5th song to debut atop the Hot 100 in 2020, the most of any year in the chart's history. This week, the rap duo's collaborative hit breaks another chart record, though perhaps not one either artist would be eager to claim. The article then continues and says, TROLLZ plummets to number 34 on the Hot 100 in its second week, marking the biggest fall for a #1 debut in Hot 100 history. The Weeknd previously set the record with chart-topping After Hours single Heartless, which dropped to number 15 in its second week in December. By the way, The Weeknd is still a goddamn goat, I don't even care. Anyway, so pretty much TROLLZ got that #1 spot back in June when it dropped, as we all know. The next week, the song was nowhere to be found on the Billboard Top 10. Matter of fact, like the article said, it jumped all the way back to 34. Meanwhile, the Bigger Picture stayed in the top 10 that same week. TROLLZ plummeted and was casually just chilling at number 7 at that point. Now, to be fair, 6IX9INE is somewhat blackballed from the industry, meaning he doesn't get that much support from the industry in terms of things like playlisting, which is absolutely essential if you're gonna have any chance whatsoever to chart high. I want you to realize that literally 2/3 of his sales were cut, which is absolutely insane. I'm personally suspecting that this has something to do with the merch bundles. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, what a lot of artists do nowadays when they drop a project is around the time of the project dropping, they also release a bunch of merch, but along with the merchandise comes a digital album. Fans buying that merch then automatically contributes to album sales. Travis Scott mastered this whole merch bundles quote-unquote tactic when he dropped Astroworld. That's why he ended up getting the #1 album in the United States. Nav actually did the same thing with his album, which is why his numbers were so inflated. On top of that, he dropped a deluxe. So this whole bundling merch with a digital album seems to be a very natural progression of the industry at this point. Now, earlier this year, Drake actually lost out on that #1 album spot with Dark Lane demo tapes to a country artist by the name of Kenny Chesney, who played this streaming game by bundling concert tickets along with his album. Drake, on the other hand, had zero merchandise, tickets, or physical copies out for the project, which means he decided to not play the game for whatever reason, which put him at number 2. Now, as far as 6IX9INE's numbers dropping so drastically, it's definitely because of the merch bundles not counting towards sales anymore. This is coming from the source itself, aka Billboard, as you can see from this screenshot from one of their articles. I'm suspecting that a bulk of 6IX9INE's numbers maybe came from the merch aspect of things, and that people just aren't streaming this new album as much as expected. Just for the record, these rules were implemented effective immediately, by the way. That's important to note. By the way, just an update mid-video. I got some updates as I was recording this video that the projections for 6IX9INE's album have now declined once again. The album is now projected to do between 35K and 45K, so Big Sean is definitely getting that W. Now, regarding the conversation I mentioned earlier about Lil Baby playing the long game with the Bigger Picture, the way I see TROLLZ is it got a really crazy surge of attention, streams, clout, all that good stuff within a short period of time. As we all now know, that period lasted for about a week and it just kept on declining and declining after that. Apart from the merch bundles aspect that I mentioned, that's probably what's happening to his album at the moment. People were really interested right when it dropped, and then after that, the streams kept on declining and declining because fans just weren't really messing with the album. Pretty much the album most likely wasn't as good as fans were expecting. Regarding TROLLZ though, the person who had a really big influence on the crazy amount of success the song saw is of course Nicki Minaj. The Barbs were streaming the hell out of the song, and that's a strong force. At the moment, TROLLZ is only beating the bigger picture with a little over 6.5 million streams on Spotify, which is absolutely nothing. A year from today, the bigger picture will have more streams, and I put that on my life. I said this on Twitter the other day, and I'm gonna say it again. The kids decide what rappers are popping nowadays. It is what it is. 6ix9ine is the hottest thing on the menu, but will he be a decade down the road? I'm not too sure about that, especially right now. I think we can say this with confidence, but things just are not looking good for him at the moment. Considering how much attention he's gotten, ever since he got out of prison and how much controversy he's been involved in, he should be doing 100,000 blindfolded. He should be doing it with ease. And when it comes to 6ix9ine, different criteria come into play because he's not your average artist. This guy thrives solely off of controversy. The driving force in the Tekashi 6ix9ine machine is not his music, it is his antics. And this time around, it obviously looks like the antics are not really feeding the music, so to speak. The bigger picture and TROLLZ going head to head really taught us a lot about the state of music, but specifically the state of hip hop. That battle right there was almost like a lesson. Yes, the bigger picture technically lost to TROLLZ at the moment, but it's clearly winning the long game. We see that not only on the impact, but also the steady wave of influence, in terms of the kind of conversations it started. It's gonna be exciting to see how this little battle turns out, and I'll make an updated video on it once the numbers are in, because trust me when I say this, whichever way this ends up going, right now it's looking like Big Sean is taking that W. There's gonna be a lot to say about it. But yeah, there we have it. The TROLLZ versus the bigger picture battle all over again, featuring Big Sean this time. What's your thoughts on this little 6ix9ine versus Big Sean battle that's currently going on? What album out of these two do you currently have on repeat? And last but not least, is it looking good for 6ix9ine or not? Definitely let me know in the comment section below, and let's have a discussion about this.